Hier spricht Michael Ingram. Wir befinden uns auf einer Farm in Conway im Neuenglandstaat Massachusetts, dem Besitz von Archibald Leach, dem Dichter und diesjährigen Pulitzer-Preisträger für sein Drama J.B. Der Pulitzer-Preis wird alljährlich ausgegeben für 3 Kategorien: Journalismus, Literatur, Musik. Auf dem Gebiet des Journalismus sind 7 Preise für die verschiedenen Gebiete des Zeitungswesens vorgesehen. 5 Preise für Literatur, Drama, Dichtung, Novelle, Biografie, Geschichte und 1 Preis für Musik. Der große Zeitungsmann Joseph Pulitzer, der Herausgeber der St. Louis Post-Dispatch, hinterließ im Jahre 1911 Geld, mit dem die Columbia-Universität in New York eine Schule für Journalismus gründen sollte. Und einige Zeit später, im Jahre 1917, beschloss die Fakultät der Schule ihrerseits, alljährlich außergewöhnliche Leistungen mit dem Pulitzer-Preis auszuzeichnen. Archibald Leach ist Dichter und Dramatiker. Er ist mit vielen Ehrungen ausgezeichnet worden. Ja, auch der Pulitzer-Preis ist für ihn nichts Neues. 2-mal zuvor hat er ihn erhalten, mit Gedichtbänden im Jahre 1933 und 1953. 1939 wurde er zum Verwalter der Kongressbibliothek ernannt. Einige Jahre später repräsentierte er die Vereinigten Staaten in verschiedenen Komitees der Vereinten Nationen. Er lehrt an der Harvard-Universität. Aber am liebsten arbeitet er mit seiner Frau auf der Farm und in seinem Garten. Vielleicht können wir Mr. Leach bei seiner Lieblingsarbeit für einige Momente unterbrechen, um einiges über den Pulitzer-Preis und über sein Drama J.B. zu erfahren. Sie haben nun zum 3. Mal den Pulitzer-Preis gewonnen. 2-mal für Dichtung und diesmal für Ihr Drama J.B. Sehen Sie in dieser letzten Auszeichnung eine besondere Bedeutung gegenüber den Gedichtbänden?
Well, there seems to me to be a difference, shall we put it that way, between a prize of any kind and this prize in particular. For a play is distinguished from a prize given for a volume of poems. A play being the result of the work of a number of people, the recognition, the prize, becomes a comment upon the play as a work. It's very difficult to talk about this, and what I'm trying to say is that it isn't simply a matter of personal gratification. It becomes a recognition of the piece of drama. It becomes a recognition of the work of the various people, producer, director, actors, scenic designer, and so forth, who put it on the stage. And altogether it becomes a much more lively thing, a living thing, a workable, working thing, and very useful indeed.
Mr. Leach sagt, ja, ich sehe einen sehr bestimmten Unterschied in dem Preis, den ich für einen Gedichtband erhielt, den ich geschrieben habe und mit dem ich fertig bin, im Gegensatz zu einem Theaterstück, das jetzt aufgeführt wird und Abend für Abend neu geboren wird. Es ist eine Auszeichnung, an dem auch die Schauspieler und der Regisseur teilhaben können. Also mit anderen Worten, es gibt dem Werk noch eine neue Kraft. Denn Mr. Leach, hat es Sie nicht auch überrascht, dass ein Stück mit einem biblischen Thema, das ist ja das Schicksal Hiobs in modernem Gewande, einen so großen, einen so populären Erfolg in unserem heutigen Theaterleben gefunden hat?
Well, yes, it was all surprises. Has been a series of surprises for 4 or 5 months now. Surprises not only in the United States, but to a lesser degree in Germany, where the play has also been produced in various cities. Before we opened on Broadway in New York, I had been warned by everyone to avoid, insofar as possible, any mention of the fact that the play was in verse, because that would discourage audience and critics. It was most undesirable to talk about it as a play on a biblical theme, and one must emphasize the fact that it is a modern play, a play of a modern situation. Actually, as things turned out, not only the New York audiences, but New York critics, Broadway itself, main Broadway, received the verse without any particular difficulty. The biblical aspects of the play seemed to be matters of interest rather than of repulsion, and the tragedy of the theme was recognized as the tragedy of a contemporary theme and accepted as such by almost everyone who talked about the play in the public prints. There were, of course, dissents, good, vivid ones, but generally speaking, there was no difficulty here. And the only difficulty I'm aware of in Germany arose when an attempt was made in the first German production, or the first production in German, to present it as a mystery play, or an American Jedermann, which it is not. Since the play has been produced in Germany in its own proportions and as what it is, there have been no difficulties of this kind. So that when you ask me if I'm surprised, I can only say I still am surprised. I propose to go on being surprised for a long time.
McLeish sagt, ja, ich war überrascht, sehr überrascht sogar über diesen Erfolg. Ich wurde vor der Aufführung gewarnt, dass ein Stück mit einem so ernsten Thema im Versmaß geschrieben nur für ein sehr begrenztes Publikum von Interesse sein wird. Aber das genaue Gegenteil ist eingetreten. Es wurde sehr gelobt, aber auch heftig kritisiert. Aber niemand fand es unverständlich. Und ähnlich war es auch in der deutschen Fassung. Zu Anfang wurde es als eine Art Jedermann aufgeführt. Und das war ein Fehler. Aber in späteren Aufführungen wurde das Stück richtig aufgefasst, nämlich als ein modernes Stück, als ein Erlebnis unserer Zeit. Und von dem Moment an waren dann auch die Schwierigkeiten in der deutschen Fassung überbrückt. Nun, was veranlasste Sie, das Thema, das Schicksal eines modernen Hiob zu wählen, Mr. McLeish?
How did I happen to come to this theme? For reasons which I think any member of my generation in any country would understand, reasons which one German whom I happen to know, who belongs to a very different generation, understands, my very brilliant German translator, Eva Hess, a reason which comes out of the experience of the time. I think no generation has ever felt as deeply as our generation does, my generation and perhaps a generation younger, the indifference of the universe to monumental, inexplicable, inordinate human suffering, the kind of suffering that we've lived through, that we've seen innocent people living through in the last, well, my lifetime. I am 67, the last 40, 50 years. All this brings one's mind back and back and back to the question of the injustice of the universe. Oh, the justice of it. Is there justice? And this, after all, is the question which finds its greatest expression in the myth of Job, in the Old Testament myth of Job, who confronts God with that question in his mouth, the question of the justice or injustice of the universe. It was the time that brought me to the theme, and I can only hope that the fact that people are willing to go and see the play and that it has had some recognition perhaps means that the myth of Job is as alive for most of my contemporaries as it is for me.
Was mich zu diesem Thema brachte, sagt Mr. McLeish, war unsere Zeit, das Schicksal der Menschen unserer Zeit. Ob sie nun zu meiner, der älteren Generation gehören oder zu der jungen Generation, der ausgezeichneten Übersetzerin des Stückes Eva Hess. So wie Hiob sein Schicksal und das Leiden, das ihm auferlegt wurde, nicht verstehen konnte, so verstehen wir unser Schicksal und unser Leid auch nicht. Und wir müssen uns zu einer Lösung durchkämpfen. Ich kann nur hoffen, sagt Mr. McLeish, dass mein Stück denjenigen, die es sehen, helfen mag, mit ihrem eigenen Schicksal zurande zu kommen. Mit diesem seinen dritten Pulitzer-Preis ist Archibald McLeish in der Gesellschaft anderer großer Dichter und Schriftsteller, die den Pulitzer-Preis mehrmals gewonnen haben. Männer wie Thornton Wilder, Robert Frost, Eugene O'Neill, Robert Sherwood, Carl Sandburg. Wir verbrachten einige Minuten auf der Farm von Archibald McLeish, diesjähriger Pulitzer-Preisträger für sein Drama Spiel um Job.
Yes, that was an incredibly crappy microphone. Holy cow. Pulitzer Prize. Archibald Leach. That's what it sounded like to me. Anyways, I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where we watch old 16mm films, and I think that was actually from a 35mm print, because I thought I saw sprockets for a second, and there were 4 of them, like right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 16 only has 1 sprocket, which is either there or there. So, and if it was Super 8 or 8mm, it would be right there. And if it was 9.5, it would be right there. And also 35 would be also on this side too. There would be 4 on that side. All right. We've covered all our sprocket holes for all the different formats. It's time to learn about how to present. Boy, I might need some more coffee. How to prevent the spread of disease. Enjoy.
Poor Barbara, not for her the carefree hours of happy play, nor the busy hours of work and study. What has happened to her that she lies there so hot and feverish, so weak and dizzy, so miserable with suffering and pain? Our body is just like a little country that has been invaded by an enemy army. But the enemy in this case is not big soldiers. This invading army is so tiny that it can be seen only through a microscope. Its soldiers are the germs of communicable disease. Some of these disease-causing organisms are so small that they cannot be seen even with the most powerful microscope. They are detected only because they can pass through the tiny holes of this filter. A communicable disease is one which can be caught from someone else. This means that the germs have to leave the body of a sick person and enter the body of one who is well. The usual gateway by which they enter is through the mouth or nose. How do germs make the trip from sick to well and thereby spread disease? They may travel by one of several ways. Coughs and sneezes, which are not protected, send germs in a direct spray. Kissing also gives germs a direct, short trip. The public drinking cup is a favorite means of travel. Water, as we find it in nature, may have harmful germs in it. If we drink such water without first boiling it, we are giving these germs a free ride into our bodies. Milk is the best food there is for us, but if it comes from unhealthy cows, in dirty surroundings, or is handled by people having a communicable disease, it can become a good conveyor of germs. Rats and some insects, particularly the fly, are of great help to germs of certain diseases by carrying them from filth to the food we eat. Thus you see that germs have several ways of traveling from the sick to the well. As individuals and as a community, we can do many things to halt this movement of germs and prevent the spread of disease. A healthful community must have a safe water supply. Here we see sedimentation and chlorination, a part of the process of water purification. In rural areas, a safe water supply requires a properly constructed well located on higher ground and at a considerable distance from the toilet. The purity of a city's water supply is further protected by the sanitary treatment of sewage. A series of processes renders the waste non-injurious to health. In rural areas, the problem of disposal of human waste can be solved by the building of a proper type septic tank. Or, if this is impractical, by building properly constructed sanitary toilets. Care in all steps of handling milk will do much to reduce milk-borne diseases. Cleanliness in the dairy, healthy cows, clean and healthy milkers, sterilized buckets, and cans so constructed as to keep out dust and flies all help to bring us safe milk so important in our lives. Pasteurization, which does not take the place of all these other precautions, is the one way to make sure that milk is safe. Anti-fly measures, particularly the disposal of breeding places, will help halt one of the most important ways by which germs travel. Tight-fitting screens are effective not only against flies, but also against mosquitoes. We can do much to prevent the spread of disease by keeping away from those who are sick. Common sense tells us to stay away from indoor crowds whenever communicable diseases are prevalent. Always call the doctor early whenever a communicable disease is suspected. Early treatment may lessen the severity of the sickness and halt its further spread. It is the duty of anyone suffering from a contagious disease to remain at home until the doctor feels it is safe for him to go out among other people. Some diseases, such as smallpox, diphtheria, and typhoid fever, could be wiped out entirely if each and every one of us took advantage of the time-proved protection offered by vaccination and preventive inoculation. One of our best weapons in preventing the spread of disease is cleanliness, which is particularly important when there is a communicable disease in the house. Certainly, cleanliness should be observed in all places where food is sold or served. All dishes used by the public should be sterilized. Our hands may pick up germs. The one act of washing the hands after going to the toilet and before eating is an invaluable health measure. The use of paper cups instead of common drinking glasses will help keep down the transmission of disease. We cannot keep all germs from entering our bodies, but wise old nature has placed within us natural forces capable of fighting the invading armies of disease. The better the condition of our health, the stronger this last line of defense against the invader. Building up this resistance depends upon a well-balanced diet which satisfies all the food requirements of our body. Outdoor exercise in the fresh air and sunshine. At least 6 glasses of water daily. And plenty of rest. At least 8 hours of sleep every night. Every step we take to prevent the spread of disease means increased happiness and greater living efficiency for all of us.
I think I have chili in my beard. I made Cincinnati chili. I love Cincinnati chili. And some of it got into my beard. All right. Yeah, lots of great advice in there. And it has not changed. Mostly, you know, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. If you're sick, stay at home. Those are the ones that seem to do the best. All right, let's see if the age of steam has changed. Enjoy.
Power is the rate of energy available for doing work. In ancient times, when the farmer tilled his soil, work was performed by his own muscles and by the animals he had tamed. But these energies are limited. For additional sources of power to lighten his burden, primitive man used windmills and water wheels as prime movers. He knew that a blowing wind and a flowing river, any moving mass, possessed energy and therefore power. But the knowledge of power did not progress beyond this fundamental concept. Mankind remained dependent on wind and water for thousands of years. In the 18th century, water was still the prime source of energy. Water wheels turned the mechanism of simple machines. They were generally made of wood and operated in small workshops in the home. When metal machinery was first introduced in England's textile industry, factories were built to house the new machines. The Industrial Revolution started with the change from hand labor to machine work. This progress was achieved because discoveries in metallurgy enabled man to manufacture better tools. For thousands of years, mechanical skill had advanced as little as man's knowledge of power. And then, in the late 18th century, rolled sheet iron, rolled iron rods and bars came into use. Iron was no longer a material for the craftsman. It became the very substance of industry. Now that sheet iron was available, man could build metal tanks for water storage, pressure tanks for the generation of steam, pipes to carry water and steam, and boilers in which steam was made by heating water. Valves were designed to regulate the driving force of steam and to control its speed and pressure. This new technical knowledge led to the building of steam engines. They were a simple mechanism for pumping water. Steam raised a piston which operated the pump. The knowledge that the pressure of boiling water generates steam was old. New was the technical know-how of combining the engine, the boiler, and the furnace, which was heated by coal. Man had made the vital discovery of transforming the heat of fuel into mechanical energy. History was made when James Watt so greatly improved the steam engine that it was no longer a simple up and down pumping mechanism. His engine performed rotary motion. It could be adapted to any type of work and was soon utilized in England's and America's industries. Better machines were needed to speed up factory operations. When Eli Whitney invented the system of interchangeable parts, he eliminated slow and costly handwork. The new machines produced work cheaper and faster than manual labor. They were driven by steam. One industry after another utilized the newly discovered power. The era of science, research, and technology was here. Inventors improved the mechanism which increased the efficiency of the steam engine. Scientists worked out physical theories on steam pressure and expansion. Engineers built boilers for higher pressure, obtaining faster piston speeds. Metallurgists improved the strength and workability of metal. Mechanics designed machine tools for greater accuracy. Technicians replaced old measuring devices with new precision instruments. Discoveries in the laboratories often provided new methods of transforming heat energy by physical means. Progress was achieved because experts of many countries had learned to unite their efforts. The stationary steam engine which powered industry was soon geared to wheels. Since ancient man had invented the wheel and tamed animals, no major improvements had been made in transportation. Now, steam revolutionized transport. This is the first long-distance London-Bath steam carriage. It accomplished in 1829 a 200-mile round trip at 15 miles an hour. Travel increased in speed, safety, and comfort. So did the enthusiasm of the people. The steam locomotive. the laying of the tracks. What spectacular proof of man's new technical abilities. Trade broadened and railroads speeded the growing industrial wealth. Coal was the chief source of energy during this phase of the steam age. The locomotives, run by coal, in turn transported more coal to the factories. Next to the clang of railroads, due to the surging industries, smokestack factories were built in growing cities. The entire conditions of life were changing. A new working class and a new industrial society evolved. From peasant occupations to city living, and from the small workshop in the home to the factory system with an ever-growing production. It was the most important economic revolution in history. The steam engine was the supreme source of power for about 100 years. On land, steam was the prime mover of the Industrial Revolution. Coupled to the factory system, it brought about the machine age and the industrialization of all countries which utilized the new power. On water, it started with Robert Fulton's steamboat navigation on inland waterways in 1807 and progressed to large-scale transport of industrial products by ocean liners. By rail, the growth of industry was paralleled by the progress achieved in transportation. The railroads largely contributed in making the 19th century the age of steam. Our 20th century has discovered vast new sources of energy. Electricity transmitted by wire brings power right into the homes. Huge power stations are using atomic energy as the latest heat source for steam. Nearly 3/4 of all electrical energy in the United States is generated by steam. Steam is also used for the refining of oil, for the production of chemicals, for international trade and travel by steamships, where large turbines generate the power. And steam heats the buildings of industry. Our modern world began with steam. For thousands of years, man had remained dependent on wind and water until he discovered steam, a source of power that could be utilized anywhere at any time.
Quit your griping.
I'm a conscience. His conscience. I help him know what's right from wrong. Right now, I'm a very tired conscience because I've been awake all night trying to figure out some way to help George. He's George, and I'm him. And we're, well, you know how a conscience works. It's just about time to get up. And in a few minutes, I'll be all tied up with George for the day. But first, I'd like to ask you to come along and observe. Perhaps you'll be able to tell me how I can help George. Maybe then I can get some rest. Oh, we got to tell you. George's main trouble is he's a griper.
George, breakfast ready. Gonna get up, or do I have to come in there and pull you out of bed?
Okay. Okay. Phooey. Why do you have to get up so early just to go to school? I don't see why you have to be on time anyway. See what I mean? George is griping already. Wonder why he can't be like Betty Anderson. She's a girl we walk to school with sometimes. Gotta keep Constance, too. Well, now, she always seems friendly and cheerful. It's about time to get up over at her house, too. Do you suppose she starts out a day the way George does? George! Oh, my gosh, he shouldn't be without me. You look in on Betty while I find George.
Breakfast ready, Betty. Come on, climb out of there.
Okay, Dad.
Oh, what a beautiful morning.
Oops. Better hurry. Got lots to do today.
It's just as I've always said. There's not a team today that doesn't play like a bunch of green amateurs. When I was playing ball, that sort of thing just didn't happen.
Mom, where's my green sweater?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, nothing's ever where I left it. You'd think that once, just once, you could put something down in this house and come back and it'd still be there.
Oh, wouldn't you know it? It's starting to cloud up. I knew it. I knew it. 7 days in a week, and the one day I plan to shop, it has to rain. George, will you please eat your breakfast and stop dilly-dallying around? I'm going to be late for school.
I'll make it on time. I'll make it. They'll probably have some dry old speaker in the assembly program this morning. They never fail. As you can see, George comes from a long line of gripers. I wonder if Betty has the same trouble with her family. Whoops, gotta go.
Hi. Hi, George.
Hi.
Mind if I walk to school with you?
No?
Hi.
Hi, Betty.
The rally
I hope there's a big turnout for the rally this afternoon.
It's the first game. Everyone's going to be there. You're coming, aren't you, George?
No, I'm not coming. We'll lose the game anyway. We always lose.
Well, what's eating him?
Oh, you know George. He's the biggest gripe I know. Wait a minute, George. Well, why do you suppose a swell girl like Betty would go out of her way to be nice to a wet blanket like George?
Maybe we think she's so swell because she is nice to everybody, even George.
Why do you suppose he's so sour on everything?
Maybe it's because he never does anything.
Yeah, the coach tried to get George to try for the basketball team last year. But would he do it? No, sir.
Remember the first game last year? Betty and the other cheerleaders talked George into going, and boy did he mess up the works. As soon as the team came out...
Team, fight! Win tonight! Yay, team! Yay, team! Team fight! Win tonight!
3 or 4 times till I won. See, we haven't got a chance. Coach Rankins always plays his favorites. The really good players never get in the game.
Oh, you just say that just because you never made the team.
That's all you know. I didn't even try out for this team.
Then what right do you have to kick about how they play?
Come on, you guys. Don't let the team down now. We've got plenty of time. Let's go. Go! Fight! Win! Go, fight, win!
I told you so. I told you we couldn't win. George, you're a dope. All this griping hasn't made you any happier. And since it hasn't helped them, take a look.
I didn't mind our team losing so much, but with a sour apple like George around, it seemed to make it twice as tough.
Remember how we griped at each other for almost a week after the game?
With George's attitude of never do, I sure don't see how he gets any fun out of life. Not only that, his griping always seems to ruin things for everyone else. Remember the day in English class when Miss Duncan made that assignment?
And now that you've all read the play, how about forming into groups and acting out some of the scenes?
Hey, look, Mom. Mama's little boy in a big part.
Let's see, George, how would you like to be chairman of one of the groups?
I'd rather not. I'd just as soon read the plays as fool around with this make-believe kid stuff.
I see. Well, perhaps we'd better not take this exercise after all. Class, open your books to page 112, please.
Now, why'd you have to go do that? You know it would have been fun to act out those scenes. You always gripe about school being so dull, yet you never help to make anything interesting. Take a look around you, George. You spread happiness like a blotter.
George's griping sure has always seemed to gum up the words.
We're great ones to talk. Do you realize we've been doing a pretty good job of griping ourselves all this time? I'll see you, Francis.
You know, the day that George Foster sees the bright side of anything, they'll probably declare a school holiday.
Isn't that the truth? It is pretty funny, isn't it?
What? No, it's kind of silly if you ask me.
Oh, George, why don't you relax and quit trying to impress everyone with how stupid you think everything is? I'm sorry, George. Come on, let's go to assembly.
I suppose you want me to sit by you so people will feel sorry for you. Now, why'd you have to go do that? Betty's just about the only friend you got left. And yet, even with her, you gotta be your nasty old self and gripe. George, if you could see yourself as others see you, I'll bet you'd change. And right away, too. It's not hard to be one of the gang. All you have to do is help out, not be a continual griper. Tell you what. Why don't you go on to that assembly? Sit down by Betty. Tell her you're sorry. Oh, what's there to lose by trying? Come on, let's do it. And remember, smile. Well, there he goes. I wonder if George can really stop being the griper. Can he do anything about the griping in his home? If George could change, Will the other students accept him? Does George remind you of anyone you know? What do you think?
I think that griping is hereditary, and that George doesn't have much of a chance. It's rare with Centron to have these weird supernatural elements where you have this disembodied ghost. Normally, this is played out like with either a narrator who's kind of talking, and maybe he's a ghost, or you have kids and faculty and students kind of negotiating and talking about what's happening. But the fact you have this ghost subconscious, it's pretty fascinating. All right, well, we started by griping. Let's just keep going. Who's boss?
Egotist. If he thinks I'm going to sit home and cry my eyes out, he's got a door to slam. Well, so have I. I can make my own living just as well as he can make his. He ought to be glad I'm working. Just because he can't stand competition, he wants me to quit. My work isn't important enough. I'm only a woman. But he, the man, is boss. He'd like me to be a slave to the house while some cutie on the paper whispers into his porteries. Look at this mess. The way he throws his clothes around. It wouldn't hurt His Highness a little interest in the house. I'm the one who's married, but he can act as if he were single. He wouldn't dream of wearing a wedding ring, no matter how much I tell him I like it. But I'm as good as he is. I've got a brain of my own, and I intend to make the most of my life, too. Yes, I want a home and kids, but I'm not going to be a fool like Mother, bending over a washtub all her life while Dad went around as free as air. A woman's place is in the home. Why, His Highness ought to wear side whiskers and carry a gold-headed cane. If he thinks I'm going to obey his every command, he can get right out of my life. And I mean it, right out of my life.
That's a woman for you. Never tell what she'll do next. All the time I thought she was so sweet and tender. What a temper. Lucky I ducked out when I did. How could I win? I'm only a man. Oh, well, the copy won't wait. Where do women get the idea that they wear the pants? Must be her diploma. To a man, it's a piece of paper, but Virginia, she's got the world at her feet. The way she hangs on to her name, you'd think it was a shame to be a Jackson. I write the copy, but it comes out as a picture story by Virginia Chase. She'd break her neck for a good shot, but our home is like a bachelor rooming house. It's about time she learned what comes first, marriage or her job. Everybody else leads a normal life. Why can't we? I'm fed up with warmed-up leftovers and dishes in the sink. She can't even find time to sew on a button for me. How Mom used to take care of Dad, and how happy both of them were. Virginia's got no such respect for a man. What was she thinking of when she said, I do? A roommate to help with the dishes? What does a man work for? Beating his brains out to make something out of himself if his wife doesn't look up to him. Instead, she competes with me and makes a half man out of me and a half woman out of herself. And I, like a fool, thought I was getting a wife. I'll show her who's boss, even if we wind up in the courts.
This wasn't the first time that Jackson's marriage had shown signs of cracking. And the next morning, as had happened many morning afters, they were assigned to the same story. Here they were. Who was to blame? Neither, and both. Each one felt he was being asked to give up more than he could afford. Yet almost without knowing why, they moved toward each other and fumbled for some way of coming closer together. Let's go someplace and talk, Mike said.
Thank you.
This was my last assignment, Mike.
Why? What happened?
Nothing. I've made up my mind. I'm quitting the job.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
But what would you do?
Nothing. Stay in all under your slippers when you come home at night.
Oh, Jenny, I wasn't trying to defeat you.
And what was all that yelling about last night?
I was a fool. You know, after I cooled off last night, I found I'd been hanging on to a lot of ideas I don't really believe in anymore. I realized I'd miss your puttering in the dark room.
Oh, Mike, you don't have to prop me up.
No, really. I like a woman who's doing things, Jenny. I didn't marry you so you'd admire me and laugh at my jokes. You've got a mind of your own, and you've got to use it. It's about time I accepted you as you really are.
Darling, you don't know how much you're saying. It's like getting a wonderful present. I feel like, I don't know.
Well, here's my padded shoulder.
You know, when we disagree, it's a good idea to disagree about things we really don't agree about.
That was a mouthful.
I'd like to get some shots of the kids in the park. Let's straighten up and go outside. It's too nice a day to stay in the house.
When do we forget about cleaning up and go then?
Oh, no, I hate to come home to a messy house. The least you could do is pick up your clothes.
And the least you could do is to forget about your job on Sunday. I hate weekends like this.
So, you didn't mean a word of what you said yesterday, did you?
No, that's not what I meant. But can't we have a little bit of a family life, at least on Sunday?
Well, we may as well have this out again. Sure, I want family life. But if I'm to keep up my job, I can't do all the housework myself. You've got to do the few things I ask you to, Mike.
Are you trying to boss me again?
Oh, Mike.
Okay, Jenny. This is the last time you'll have to tell me. What do you want me to do?
Okay, we're up.
Jenny, you're doing things to me. A year ago, I'd have heard that alarm in my dreams and slept on.
I feel good, too. I feel like splurging tonight. It's payday.
But we were out only day before yesterday. Every day seems payday to you. One day we go out, the next day you buy a chiffon nightgown. But we never save a penny that way.
It's my money. Our toast's gonna burn.
Don't run away. I want this straightened out.
I thought you weren't gonna mold me anymore.
You got a cigarette?
No, you haven't brushed your teeth yet. And don't change the subject. Do I look good in a chiffon nightgown, or don't I? Or don't you notice anymore?
I do, dear. I didn't mean to pick on that. I'm just trying to make $1 worth a buck. That's my point.
Well, how do we do that?
It's something we'll have to find out.
Well, I think it's just one of the things we'll have to work out. Breakfast will be ready in a minute. You waste as much money as I do, Mike, and you know it.
Who, me?
Yes, how about all your taxi cabs and fancy lunches and cocktails and things?
Oh, that's a business investment.
You mean an alibi, don't you?
All right, so I've got no head for money.
Oh, now, don't get cross. I'm not trying to start an argument. From now on, why don't we both write down every cent we spend?
That won't help. We just spend it anyway.
Well, what will help?
A budget.
Oh, that would depress me, Mike. I feel like it depended on an allowance.
That's the only thing that'll make a marriage like ours work.
What about love? Doesn't that come first?
Of course. It's got to rest on a balanced budget. There you are. We've still got $40 of our week's pay left. Mind you, that's after all bills are paid. Doctor, your allowance and mine, everything taken care of.
Now what are we going to do with all this money?
Tell you what, you just write down everything you've ever wanted.
All right. I like this part of it.
Go ahead, just splurge. I'll write mine down, too.
Let's see. Rolleiflex, fur jacket, some new china. Hey, this is fun.
Wait a minute. We wanted a vacation. We must save something for a vacation.
Yes, I need a vacation, too. Oh, I see. You mean we have to cut out something.
And Ginny, another thing, remember? A house, and a kid, or kids, and a car. We've got to start saving.
And all that out of $40?
A week. Don't forget, that's a lot of money in a year. We can cut down on our allowance, too. Look, if I cut down on cigarettes, on cabs, I bring in another $10. Well, that's $500 a year.
Let me see the food budget. If we eat home 2 more days a week, and look, that fur jacket can wait, too.
Baby, you catch on quick.
It's fun to make money like this.
Jenny, we just made a chunk of dough. It's 60 instead of 40 a week now. Well, that's wonderful.
Mike, you're wonderful. Where would I be without you?
Bye.
Well, there goes the budget.
It's your idea.
That city desk friend of yours, the one that was making passes at Marge, I thought he was disgusting.
But you must know that genius photographer friend of yours bores me stiff.
Why do we have to have 2 sets of friends anyway?
That's right. Why?
Incidentally, you could have mentioned that I made the cake myself.
Sorry. But you could have let me get halfway through one story without breaking in on it.
I guess we haven't learned yet not to compete with each other. Oh, I'm tired. You know the Robinsons that live up the street in that new house you like? I keep meeting her at the grocery all the time. She's asked us in lots of times.
What's her husband like?
I think you'd like him.
Yes, I think it'd be a good idea if we made friends with some neighbors. Next time you see her, tell her we'd be delighted to come.
What's today?
20th.
And last month when we did that hospital story, when was that?
9th? No, 10th. Why?
I think you better take me to the doctor tomorrow.
It's 7 years now since the Jacksons decided to work at their marriage. It's no coincidence, perhaps, that for the last 7 years, the marriage has worked for them. Not perfectly, of course, but well enough. They were tough years, too, full of crises and the normal run of trouble, but the Jacksons took them in stride. Mike has won his promotion by hard work, the same way he has made himself a happy home. A little luck, but mostly sweat and tears.
There have been 2 additions to the family. Tom is 7 and a budding Tarzan.
Mike gets a kick out of seeing young muscles and skills develop. He can nearly remember when he was 7 himself. So long, fella. Be seeing you. They get along pretty well, these male Jacksons. With themselves and with their womenfolk.
Hello, Mike. Thanks for bringing those things.
The couple still need kid gloves from time to time, but they figured out ways to handle ticklish situations. Virginia's apron, when it's worn astern, means, take it easy, I need tender love and care tonight. And Mike's got his own danger signals. His spinning hat says it's one of those days when a fella needs a friend.
I see you had a hard day.
Not so hard that a warm greeting can't help a little.
Let me finish this. I'll be with you in a minute.
And even now.
Can't you teach Tom to keep his junk out of the way?
Why don't you watch where you're going? Tom's part of this family, too, you know.
But he has to learn to keep order someday.
Well, he will, but losing your temper won't do it.
But nowadays, such scenes don't end with one of them sulking. Their relationship isn't brittle, always at the cracking point like it used to be. Mike isn't troubled by the fact that Virginia still has her own work to do once in a while. They've long since stopped worrying about who's breadwinner and who's housemaker. Mike's dignity is much more flexible since he discovered that a wet baby loves whoever changes her, male or female.
Dinner's almost ready. Come any time. It'll be awfully simple.
He learned his techniques when Tom was an infant, and he's mighty proud of his tender touch. Why not? Some guys boast of their sensitivity to the feel of a fishing line. Mike thinks handling a prima donna is even trickier.
Home life at the Jacksons, like most American home life, is a curious jumble of interests and needs. To make it everybody's family table takes a lot of doing. Mike and Virginia have learned they could make it theirs by being aware of everybody else's wants. By taking time out for the others, they make time for themselves. These days, Virginia is proud of Mike's success. They're not competing anymore. Why should they? Budgets and careers and differences of personalities don't have to mean trouble. It's a good deal for both, this partnership without a boss. The fruits of adjustment are a little noisy, but mighty sweet.
Oh, I accidentally cut off the educational advisors. So this is part of a series called the Marriage for Moderns, and I feel like, did I show another from that series? There's one called Who's Right? Yeah, which I showed, like 4 years ago. Oh, yeah. And then there's this charming couple. Yeah, there's a bunch, and they're all basically set up to educate us during post-World War II about what modern marriage is like, and that means pretty much a marriage that women have more independence. Women are often working. Women lived on their own. They didn't immediately go from being with their family to being married. Same with men. Men served time in the military, maybe. So there's people who had a life beyond just graduating high school and getting married. I think that's what this is about, and it's trying to be progressive and trying to say, hey, you are two individuals, and the rigid ideas of what a wife is supposed to do and what a husband is supposed to do don't necessarily apply. So if there's some flexibility, then you won't get a divorce because divorce was rampant after World War II. A lot of people got married that probably shouldn't have. Anyways, thanks for joining us today. I appreciate your eyeballs, and we'll be back again tomorrow, Thursday, and we'll show you some more films. We've been experimenting with doing releasing 24 films a day, and we're going to continue trying it at least for a while to see what happens. And I'm doing it every hour, scheduling them to be released. And right off the bat, it looks like my subscription rate has fallen. It's tanked. So please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and hit the thumbs up. If you're not into subscribing because I'm releasing too many things, then I'm going to try to do this for a month and see if I can make this work. And if it doesn't, then I'll go back to releasing films whenever. Because we have a lot of stuff I want to get online, I want to share with you. So that's the weird math that is YouTube. But thanks for joining us, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care.